Most of us have one patch of hair we're secretly confused by. But the exact same hormone that keeps some men's hair thick at 70 is the reason others start growing hair out of their ears at 50, starting with nose and ear hair. Here's the part that sounds like a punishment, but is actually just physics catching up with you. By age 50, roughly half of men have noticed hair sprouting from their ears and nose that was never there before. And here's the twist nobody explains. It's caused by the exact same hormonal shift as going bald. Read that again. The same shift. Scalp hair follicles and ear hair follicles are getting the identical signal as you age, a change in a protein that controls how much testosterone actually reaches your hair follicles. The scalp follicles respond by shrinking. The ear and nose follicles respond by doing the opposite, growing bigger, staying in their growth phase longer, and producing thicker, darker hair than they ever did in your 20s. One hormone shift, two completely opposite results, depending entirely on which follicle is listening. This one doesn't get an evolutionary excuse either. Nobody was selected for hairy ears. There was no ancestral environment where sprouting ear hair at 50 kept anyone alive longer or helped them find a mate. This is just what happens when a species starts living decades past the point evolution ever had to plan for. Your body wasn't built with an after 50 chapter. It's improvising. If you've started noticing it in the mirror, you're not falling apart. You're just getting proof that the same system running your hairline is still fully online. It just picked a new address. And that address isn't new. That same system has had outposts all over your body since the day you hit puberty. You've just never had a reason to read the map. Chest and back hair. Look down. If your chest hair grows in one thick patch on the left and nothing on the right, or stops in a hard line at your collarbone like someone erased the rest, your receiver dishes are doing exactly what they were built to do. Actor Paul Anthony Kelly found this out the hard way when his natural chest hair became internet discourse after he played JFK Jr. on TV. His response, he wasn't interested in fitting anyone's hairless mold. He said it plainly. He has chest hair, and he owns it. Here's what's actually happening under his shirt, and yours, front and back. Every hair follicle on your torso has its own receiver dish tuned to pick up testosterone. Some dishes are cranked up loud, some are barely picking up a signal at all, and they're not tuned as a matching set. One patch of skin can be tuned completely differently than the patch 3 inches away. That's why chest and back hair grows in patches, swirls, and hard stop lines instead of one even coat. Back hair gets a special kind of self-consciousness attached to it, precisely because you can't check it yourself. You're relying on a mirror trick or someone else's description, which makes a completely normal patch of receiver dish activity feel like a secret your own body is keeping from you. It isn't a secret. It's just on a part of you that was never built for self-inspection. There's a theory that visible chest hair might have once worked as a signal, a way of broadcasting maturity to other men or catching a partner's eye. The research specifically on back hair as a signal is thinner, mostly because it's a spot nobody in our evolutionary past could see on themselves either. But the actual research on whether hairier chests read as more attractive is a mess. Some studies say yes, some say the opposite. So if you're hoping evolution guarantees you're irresistible either way, hairy or smooth, it's not going to give you a straight answer. What it will give you is the real reason for the patchiness. And here's the thing about receiver dishes. They don't only pick up hormones. Some of them are built to pick up something else entirely, the outside world, which is exactly what's happening on your arms and legs. And it's about to explain why almost every other inch of you gave up hair that they kept. Arm and leg hair. Your arms and legs are the last place on your body where you can actually see the trade our ancestors made. Fine, pale fuzz sitting right next to skin that used to be covered edge to edge in the same thick coat every other mammal still wears. Somewhere along the way, we cashed that coat in. The question is, what we cashed it in for? The leading theory is heat. Biologist Peter Wheeler spent years building the case that early humans were hunting on foot in the middle of the day, on open ground, which is a great way to overheat if you're wearing a fur coat built for a forest. Losing the coat and gaining sweat glands meant a body that could run for hours without cooking itself from the inside. The second theory is bugs. Researchers Mark Pagel and Walter Bodmer proposed that a body covered in dense hair is a 5-star hotel for ticks, lice, and fleas. Less hair meant fewer places for them to hide, and fewer diseases riding along for the trip. The third theory is that hair, or the lack of it, sends a signal to other people about health, about age, about who might make a good partner. None of these theories are fighting each other. They're most likely all true at once, stacked on top of each other over hundreds of thousands of years. Basically, Your arms are a walking time capsule. But if you want to see what this leftover gear actually does in the real world, look at the people who pay money to get rid of it, competitive swimmers. Researchers have measured it directly. Shaving down reduces the physical cost of swimming, and modern estimates put the drag reduction from smooth skin somewhere around 2 to 5%. At the Olympic level, that's the gap between a medal and a plane ticket home. But the hair on your arms right now isn't just a leftover. It's doing a job. Every single hair follicle is wired with its own cluster of nerves that fires the moment that hair moves. Even a little. That's a receiver dish, too. Just tuned to catch touch instead of hormones. It's why you can feel a mosquito land on your arm before it ever bites you. Your arm hair is a motion sensor you were born with. One more thing worth clearing up. A lot of people assume their arm and leg hair color or thickness comes down to their ethnic background. Actual measurements say otherwise. When researchers looked at real body hair density across different ethnic groups, the differences were small to non-existent. What actually predicts how hairy your arms are isn't where your ancestors are from, it's how loud your personal receiver dishes happen to be turned up. Same as your chest. Which brings us to the one line of hair most people have never once asked a doctor about, because they assume it's too small to matter. It isn't. Happy trail or abdominal midline? Here's a strange question. Why does this hair grow in a straight line down the middle of your stomach instead of just scattered around like the rest of your torso hair? The answer isn't hormones acting weird. It's construction. Before you were born, your abdominal wall wasn't one solid sheet of muscle and skin. It was built in two halves that grew toward each other and fused together right down the center. That seam is called the linea alba, and it's still there, running from your ribs to your hips. It's not just decorative. That seam is made of different tissue than the skin sitting on either side of it. And it turns out that tissue is one of the areas your body listens closest to when hormone signals come through. So, the line has a reason. You're looking at the literal seam where your body was assembled, lit up, because it happens to be more receptive to the same signal we've been talking about this whole video. This shows up more in some people than others, and it's especially common in women, which surprises people who assume it's a male trait. It's not owned by either sex, it's owned by whoever's construction seam happens to be tuned a little louder. There's nothing to fix here and nothing hidden underneath it. It's one of the plainest, most literal biology lessons your own body gives you for free. You're just looking at the stitching. Now for the one that people message us about most, but almost never talk about in public. Facial hair on women. For most of your life, the skin on your upper lip and jawline is covered in the same fine, pale fuzz as the rest of your face. Then, at some point, for a lot of women, some of that fuzz stops being fuzz. It gets darker, coarser, easier to see, and it feels like it came out of nowhere. It didn't come out of nowhere. It came from the same receivers we've been talking about this whole video, sitting in a place that's usually turned down low in women. When something turns that volume up, even a little, those same fine hairs switch over to the thicker, darker kind. The same switch that happens to a teenage boy's jawline at puberty, just flipped on later and in a different body. There are a few different reasons that switch can get flipped. Sometimes it's just genetics. Some women's receivers in this zone are naturally set a little louder than others. Full stop. No underlying cause required. Sometimes it's a hormonal condition called PCOS, or polycystic ovary syndrome, which is one of the most common reasons this particular switch gets triggered. Neither one means anything is broken. It means a hormone did exactly what hormones do, in a spot it doesn't usually get invited to. If this describes you and you want to understand what's actually driving it for your body specifically, that's worth an actual conversation with a doctor. Not because something's wrong with you, but because it's genuinely useful information to have. Everything else is just biology being biology. And biology didn't wait for puberty to pick a favorite spot to start early. There's one zone on your body where it never asked permission at all. It just started right from the beginning. Pubic or genital hair. Of everywhere we've been in this video, this is the one zone that never asks permission. It shows up first, before chest hair, before back hair, before anything else on this list. Usually the very first sign that puberty has started at all. And it grows in thicker and coarser than almost anywhere else on your body. There's a reason this particular zone plays by different rules, and it comes down to the amplifier. Every other zone we've talked about runs on the same basic hormone signal, just with receivers tuned louder or quieter depending on the person. This zone is different. The skin here uses a completely different piece of equipment, a specific enzyme that converts testosterone into a much stronger version of itself before it ever reaches the follicle. Same signal coming in, dramatically louder signal going out. This zone has its own amplifier built in, one that barely exists anywhere else on your skin. And unlike a lot of what we've covered today, this hair actually seems to be doing a job, not just following orders. The glands concentrated in this region, called apocrine glands, are the same type responsible for producing scent, and researchers think the hair here helps hold and spread that scent, which may have mattered a great deal when humans were relying on smell, not just sight, to size up a potential partner. There's also a simpler, more practical function. Reducing friction during activities where bare skin against bare skin isn't ideal. And then there's the most visible function of all. This hair doesn't just develop during puberty, it announces it. To everyone else in the room, coarse hair showing up in this specific spot has always been one of the clearest outward signs that a body has become sexually mature, long before anyone had a way to check with words. So, while your chest hair's evolutionary purpose is genuinely up for debate, and your ear hair has no purpose at all, this is the one place on your body where the biology textbook and the evolutionary story actually agree with each other. It's not random. It's not excessive. It's the loudest, earliest, most amplified version of a system that's been running quietly everywhere else on you this entire video. Every patch, every line, every spot you've ever stood in front of a mirror and wondered about, it was never a flaw waiting to be fixed. It was your own biology running the same program it runs in every other human on the planet, just turned up loud in some places and turned down in others. You didn't get a defective copy. You got your copy. I am Noah, and I'll see you in the next video.